Hi everyone. Okay, so I want to start this with very briefly talking about cultural appropriation, specifically when it comes to tarot decks. Like, I feel like we could go a lot broader there, but I don't want to today. I need to do my research a little bit more before I go there. So I was in Ways to Wellness, our local metaphysical shop, which we're very lucky to have. I go in once every couple weeks. And last time I was there, a lovely girl that I think just started not too long ago recommended the Native American Tarot. She was gifted it and just said it was incredibly beautiful. And I hesitated for a couple reasons. One, I'm not trying to buy a lot of decks that don't really speak to me or I don't think I'm going to use on a regular basis. And two, here's my hang up is was it slash is it appropriate to use a tarot deck based on a culture other than my own? So that would mean should I use a tarot deck that uses Native American iconography, symbolism? Should I use a deck that's specifically kind of meant for Native Americans or not African Americans? Should I use an Asian inspired deck? Is that appropriate? And I asked her, and we talked about it with her and her boyfriend that also works there for some time. And we all kind of had the same answer, and that is if it is used respectfully. And I think that I personally don't need to or really want to dive in any further than that because I feel you dive into these issues and you get this side, you get this side, you get that side, you get this side, and then your own mind is filled with all these like ideas and it makes it harder to make a decision and a choice and form an idea of it based solely in soul and intuition and heart in the divine. And so I kind of left the conversation there. I read a little bit about, I reviewed a little bit of cultural appropriation do's and don'ts online, and they basically had the same idea. Like some people blow it way out of proportion, and some people don't acknowledge it at all. But it is there. I'm not trying to lessen its impact by any means. I have seen awful cultural appropriation. To me, that would be like what I just saw was a Victoria's Secret model wearing a full-on headdress that went down to the floor and turquoise jewelry everywhere. And while it's pretty, that is cultural appropriation. It's one thing to wear a piece of turquoise jewelry that may have been Native American inspired. It's another thing to go full on dressed as them and behaving like, that culture when you know little to nothing about that culture. And maybe she does know about that culture, but it still doesn't belong on a Victoria's Secret runway. That's just something we can say instinctually, like, no, that's not all right. So I did look up some images on my phone of the deck, and they're extremely beautiful. They are very earth inspired, which I love, and I do love that about the Native American culture. And I don't know much about them. I'm not going to pretend to. And there's another thing. Culture appropriation, I think, can happen when people pretend or act as if they know more than they actually do, or use items from that culture, or dress in ways that mean something that they know nothing about. That's, I think, where we get into trouble, where people can get into trouble. It's disrespectful to use something from another person's culture without knowing the significance that it has in their culture, because then they can look at it and say, that you don't know why you don't know anything about this, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know the significance behind what you're doing, so it's not appropriate for you to do that. So this is an example, or as reality. Is what would be inappropriate? What would be inappropriate right now is for me to get out like a rattle and put on a headdress and start talking with a Native American accent, or even using some of their ritualistic verses. It would be extremely inappropriate for me to do that in this current moment because I know nothing about it. And even in the future, some of that, even if I did know about it, is still inappropriate because I am not. I should have tracked down my scissors before this. Because I am not of Native American descent that I know of. Like, I really don't think I am. I certainly don't look at it. But is it all right to own and use a deck? I really can't get into this, guys. I have nails. I have these nails. It's making, you think it'd make it easier. Let's try this side. So I do want to, before I give my final opinion, look at this deck with you guys. I'm not doing a flip through completely or a walkthrough. We're just going to look at a few of the cards, get a general feel for the deck. Wow, I got it. And then I will give, you know, my opinion after getting the energy of the deck and kind of feeling, maybe I'll even pull a couple cards to see, you know, what is the deck saying to me. Nope, I didn't get it. I lied. And I dropped my pen below my desk, so I'm just going to use this pen here. Let's get this sucker open. But what I was reading too is that it can be very beautiful to use certain elements from other people's cultures. If it's done with a sense of honor, if it's done in the right way, you know, and in many cases, it preserves culture. You know, there are fading cultures right now. And if we learn about those cultures and use those ideas and practices in a respectful manner, it can help those practices live on, right? So I think the key word for me is respect. And I think if you have respect for culture, you know what is appropriate for you and what is not. I think that is usually pretty clear to most people. And if it's not clear, educate yourself. You know, if I feel like something is not appropriate, or I'm even on the verge of this might not be appropriate, I'm going to research that before I dive in any way. The cards are cellophane too. Okay. Hopefully this will be easier. I don't want to ruin the cards in any way. Okay, it was a tad easier. So maybe we'll just really quick go through the major arcana and look at a couple of minor cards. The Native American Tarot, if you're interested, I think it's U.S. game. Nope, it's Lo Scarabeo. I don't know how to say it appropriately. But Lo Scarabeo. Cultural appropriation, right? That's fine. Like, I don't know how to say it exactly right, but I think that's all right. The backs are interesting. They're not my favorite. I don't know if there's a meaning behind there or not. I mean, maybe the little white book, we'll say. So it's got the little white book. Oh, it looks like it has that. I don't often get Los Scarabeo decks, but I think they do sometimes do it in different languages. Yeah, English, Italian, Spanish, French, and Dutch even. So we have very, very short. I am going to read this. Bear with me, because I'm going to read just the intro. It's only this much, and it might give us some insight or give us some clues as to what we're doing. So it says, when the people of the prairie lost their prairies, when the people of the buffalo lost their buffalo, and with them all of the battles, the prophecy of the, I'm sorry if I pronounce these wrong, the prophecy of the Kiowa tribe seemed final, that the sacred circle of the history of the Native Americans was interrupted. On the snow of Wounded Knee, not only were hundreds of warriors killed, an entire world, along with its culture, rituals, and faith, were defeated. And yet, many years after that night, increasing interest and respect for the Native American civilization leads to the thought that the wound inflicted on the circle at that time is now slowly healing, and that Native American spirituality, on the other hand, never assuaged, is back on track. Edward Goodbird, warrior of the Hidatsa tribe, writes, Everything in the world is living, has its own spirit. The sky has a spirit, the clouds have a spirit, the sun and moon have their own spirits. The same is true for animals, trees, grass, water, and stone. Everything. These spirits are our gods. If we pray to them or make offerings to them, they help us when we are in need. When the Algonquin turned to Manitou, the Sioux at Wakantanka, bear with me. It's naming some tribes, I believe, and I'm gonna skip those because I do not want to say them wrong. They turn to the power of the marvelous and the exceptional present in man, in plants, in animals, or in the buzzing of insects, in which the wise person recognizes the voices of the gods. I know very little about Native American culture, but I knew that they're respectful of nature. They do believe in the gods that are found in nature, and that I've always respected it, and I've always had a bleeding heart for Native Americans. I am not a Christopher Columbus fan. They massacred an entire culture. It is very unfortunate how the world was at that time and still is today. Like, people can't let each other be, can they? Interesting. Father Sky. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say that might be the King of Swords. I'm not sure yet, but that's actually the first card. And then it goes into, look at that. I did see this card online. The Fool here. So let's get through this. I have some initial thoughts. The Magician. The High Priestess. Looks more like an Empress to me, but interesting. Here's the Empress. She's older in this deck. I kind of like that. The Empress. Oh, God, these are gorgeous. The Emperor. The Lovers. No, it's the Hierophant. This looked like the Lovers to me at first. That's the Hierophant. Oh my God, their masks are awesome. They're amazing. That's the Lovers. Chariot. Justice. So that's normally our strength card, right? So they have it switched in this deck. Some decks do. The Hermit. Absolutely beautiful. The Wheel. For Wheel of Fortune. There's our strength card at 11. It's just, again, beautiful. Ugh. The Hanged Man. Death. Temperance. Oops. No, that's right. The Devil. Interesting. And the Tower. Then we have the Star. The Moon. Look at that. Oh my God. The Sun. It's a Sun card I like. It's a Sun card I like. Judgment. These are incredible, guys. These are really, really incredible. They're already moving me. Like, I can just feel it. And that's absolutely amazing. And the World. Okay, I don't think I'm going to go through... Oh, they're very animal. Okay. No, I mean, so we have chalices for cups. Pentacles for pentacles. Wands for wands. And, okay. And swords for swords. There must be 2 extra cards, because here at the back is the Mother Earth. You know what? That's gorgeous. So these aren't suits at all. Let me make sure. Let me make sure. No, it does say 78 meditative cards with instructions. Let's see if I can look at it in the book. It starts with the Fool. Okay, major. Then you've got your minors. The Celestial Parents. So it doesn't say on here that there's 80 cards, which is weird. You'd think that they'd say 80 cards. But it does say 78. So there was no clue that there were 2 extra cards in here until you get into the book. And then they have Father Sky and Mother Earth, and they were on the opposite ends of the deck. That's beautiful symbology. It's like they were protecting the deck, you know, protection. Gorgeous. I'm not going to say much more about this deck. I don't have much longer to go until I need to delete stuff from my phone. And I'm going to pull cards by myself. I don't want to do it. I want to really feel what the deck is saying, and I feel like I need to do that off. Okay, so here are my thoughts. If I wanted to read this intuitively right now, I would feel comfortable doing that. I have so much respect for their culture and for who they are. And I'm already seeing so intuitively, and this deck is already speaking to me on a very spiritual, deeper level, that I would have no problem reading these for myself. If I were to start reading these for other people, 1, the querent would have to be comfortable with it. And 2, I would have to know what some of the symbology is, just such as, like the Fool here. So what does it, what does the fox mean to them? What do some of these symbols mean to them, if anything? What does the Indian garb, what kind of significance does that have to them? If I were to read this for somebody else, I would need to know those things before I felt comfortable reading it. Yeah, you could read it intuitively, but I feel like you're missing a lot of what could be used intuitively if you knew the symbology behind these. So these decks, I feel like a lot of these cards weren't created for just anybody to read. Maybe they could be. I'm really genuinely interested in what you're thinking. But my thoughts are, in order to feel comfortable reading this, I would have to know some of the iconography, symbology behind some of these cards, so that I knew I was using them in the correct manner. I wouldn't want to read for anybody. I just wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't feel right doing it. So those are my thoughts on cultural appropriation when it comes to tarot decks. And I think that it would be the same process for any deck that was based in another culture for me. I would have to look at the cards, feel comfortable with them, know the iconography, symbology in that deck, and then use them respectfully. And in no way, pretend to be anything that I'm not when reading those. I would never pretend to be Native American using those cards just to get more readings or to look more hip or anything. And that is, to me, that is cultural appropriation. Using another person's culture without regard to their feelings, without doing things in the appropriate way, without knowing the significance behind what you're doing. I think those probably are 3 huge mistakes people make, and that's why people get upset when their culture is used. The white people don't have much in culture, and that's why I love other cultures so much. Our culture is fairly shameful, in my opinion, and it's a lot of other cultures that got it right, and I got it right, and I want to be able to, use those culturals for spiritual fulfillment when I can. And again, I want to do it respectfully. Give me your thoughts. If you feel like doing a VR, do that. I'm not making a hashtag, but let me know if it's something you want to talk about. But let me know what you think. And always, always, always be honest. If you think anything I said was wildly inappropriate, say so. If you have an entirely different viewpoint, say so. I will always respect that. All right. Thanks for watching so much, guys. Next time.